have Shannon Briggs with us today, and we learned a little bit about her a few weeks ago, and we wanted to share a little bit more about her personality. So Shannon, what is it that inspired you to become a speech language pathologist, and what did that process look like for you?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I'm really excited. So I actually came into university and wanted to be an economist.
Oh,
So I was like taking math classes and I was really into econ. And then I took a linguistics course and I just completely nerded out. I was obsessed with linguistics. I learned all about the IPA and everything, and it was just my favorite class in my first year of undergrad. So that's when I went to an arts advisor and I was like, what can I do with linguistics? Because I just really enjoyed it. So they told me about SLP, which I had never even heard of before I went to undergrad. And so then I just looked more into SLP, and I kind of liked how it was a combo of healthcare and education and teaching, because I was really into teaching, but then my family's very into healthcare. So I kind of liked that combination. And yeah, after that, then I just kind of dove in right after first year. I declared my major in speech sciences, and yeah, I never looked back.
well, we're so glad to have you in the field. And for anyone watching, Shannon is also an SLP graduate student. So we're all kind of in the same playing field, and we really look forward to what you can bring to our field. You're already doing so much. And I think this is the first time that we have someone with an econ background. So that's pretty cool.
For about a term.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, since you've been a graduate student speech language pathologist, what has been your favorite memory so far?
That's so tough. Definitely, I have so many memories from my placements. So those are the freshest. I don't know if I can think of one specific memory, but I had a group in my most recent clinical placement, and it was 4 kids with autism. And when I went into that placement, I was used to one-on-one sessions. So I was kind of intimidated about having 4 little kids, and I think they were all 5 and 6. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. And it ended up being so much fun. It was like the highlight of my program so far, just seeing them every week. And I don't know, I got to know them so well. And I actually just heard from my clinical educator a few weeks ago, and she was like, every Monday they still ask where you are, if you're coming back. So I think, yeah, just that group, just seeing them grow so much just in that one placement was probably like a highlight for me.
Yeah, and
That is
obviously you
seriously
had
the
some
best
kind of,
feeling.
oh, sorry. I was going to say, and obviously you had some kind of impact on them too, for them to remember you and keep asking for you. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And that's what's so neat about being an SLP student is we get such a broad experience within our placements. So one semester we might have all adult medical placement for our clinical sessions, but then the next it can be completely opposite. And like you said, have a group setting with young individuals with autism. So that's what's so neat about going through this field and really kind of figuring out what your niche is and figuring out what it is that you want to do in the future. So that kind of leads us to our next question. What is it that you look forward to the most about being a professional speech pathologist?
I think what I look forward to the most is just having such a big impact on not only a child's life, because I want to work with kids, but also a family's life. I feel like so often we think when we're working with kids, we just think about that relationship with the kid, but the relationship that we have with the family is so important and so valuable. So a year or so ago, I found out that my niece has a rare genetic disorder. So she has special needs. And I've just been seeing, so I used to always have more of the professional side of SLP, but then I've seen now, like I have a more personal side with it. And I just seeing the impact her SLP can have on the entire family's life, like even not mine and like her Nana, my mom, just seeing that relationship form, I think is so empowering and just it's really nice. So I'm excited for that.
Wow, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that we don't talk about a whole lot because we think about individuals and who we provide treatment for. But I love that you shared that about how when we provide treatment for one individual, it really impacts a whole family. And the root of all that we do is helping them be better communicators. So think about all the people in the home that may have more difficulty communicating with them because of whatever deficits that they're faced with. So yeah, the impact that we will create is something that we look forward to as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a student speech pathologist, which requires a really busy schedule, and you're also managing a really great podcast, blog, Instagram page. What are some tips and advice, pieces of advice that you can share with us about time management or staying organized, especially during this time of working constantly at home?
Mm-hmm. I think there's a few things. The first that I always tell people is balance. I think it's so important to have hobbies outside of speech or have hobbies outside of your job or school. That is so important. You can't let that go when you, like, your master's program can be so demanding, but if you don't have, and even if it's just like a workout routine, training for a run, or just having something outside of speech is so important. So I think balance, and then also just knowing yourself and knowing how you work. Because I think a lot of the time we can compare ourselves to other people and, oh, they're always working in a group or they're always studying alone, and we're always, especially in an SLP program, we are with the same cohort, we see everything, so it's hard not to compare. But I think just knowing yourself, when do you work the best? Is it the morning or is it night? Is it the night? And knowing that it's okay either. Sometimes people think you seem more productive if you get up really early and work in the morning. But I know some of my friends, they work way better in the evenings and into the night. And that's fine. I think just knowing yourself and knowing how you work. And then I think just like being gentle with yourself. It's so easy to get so stressed out, but just thinking big picture and just being gentle and kind to yourself is so important during a stressful program and from working from home too.
Absolutely. And I remember when I first my SLP graduate program, the biggest piece of advice that I was given was to block out a separate piece of time in your week and dedicate that to working on yourself. And at the time, I couldn't really understand why they were stressing it so much. But now, after being with the program, a lot of people don't realize how rigorous it is. And that doesn't stop once we're professionals, right? Because we have to be on top of the most current evidence-based practice and keep continuing to educate ourselves. So I love that you shared that. And going off of that, kind of personally, what activities have you been doing to relieve stress during this time at home or to center yourself? And do you have any good recommendations for our viewers of books or TV shows that you're watching?
So there's a few things. I love reading. Reading is my favorite activity. So one book I read that's more SLP related that I would recommend is Uniquely Human. It's such a good book, all on autism, and I really recommend that book for anyone who wants to read a book about more focus on autism. But then I don't know, I love, like, I literally just love all types of books, like Abby Bernstein books or fiction books. I read Something in the Water. It was really good. And then I really like running. So that's been a really good kind of way for me to just get outside myself. I actually was signed up for a half marathon in May and it was canceled.
Oh,
Yeah, but I've been enjoying running and just exercising. Yeah.
I'm with you 100% on that. There's something about running that is kind of monotonous, but in a way that just helps you think out any of your anxieties about the day and just de-stress.
Yeah, for sure. I love listening.
I'm totally opposite. I'd rather read a book than run, but kudos to you guys. That's awesome.
I love that you have so many different experiences with autism, with like reading books, and you're always expanding your horizons with the field, which is really great because there's not a ton of specialists within the autism field. So it's really great that you're educating yourself beyond our curriculum.
Yeah, I feel like starting my blog has really helped with that because I'm constantly being exposed to new resources and everything online. So instead of just like when you're on your personal Instagram, you're kind of just scrolling mindlessly. But I feel like when I'm logged into my SLP Corner one, I'm always seeing more, like I'm constantly learning, which is really nice. I've been learning a lot from that.
That's great. So to wrap up everything, Spectrum Sundays focuses on autism awareness. So what are some general accommodations that you think that people could make to help people who have autism feel more welcome, equal, and accepted, either in the classroom or outside in the community?
So there's two things I would want to say about this. One is awareness is so important for there to be any acceptance and accommodations to take place to begin with. So that's just, I think, the most important umbrella thing. We need to all have awareness of what autism is and how it can affect families, and just kind of growing our knowledge base surrounding what autism is. So that's I really like that you're doing this, Spectrum Sundays, because I think that's the first step that needs to happen. I always tell people, this is a pretty common quote, but when you know one person with autism, you know one person with autism. That's so important, because, and what that means is basically like, we're all unique. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, just like people with autism are unique and they all have their strengths and weaknesses. So I think that can't be emphasized enough when in a classroom with someone with autism, or when working with someone with autism, and just being in an inclusive community as a whole. So I think just knowing that if you've had one experience with someone with autism and maybe it was a negative experience, that is specific to the context, the day. It's not something to do with that person. And just knowing that everyone is different and always changing, I think is huge. I think that if we could all just have more patience and just be more understanding and empathetic towards parents and children with autism in the community. So if we see a child like blocking their ears and maybe they're yelling, taking a step back, and instead of that immediate gut reaction like, oh, they're a bad kid or they're misbehaving, just thinking like they could have a sensory processing challenge, they could have autism, we don't know. And so I think just having an understanding attitude and just sending a smile to a parent who's overwhelmed with their child can make a huge difference. So that's the one side. And then the other side is something more tangible that I've seen a lot lately, and I think that it could be used in schools, in businesses. I've seen it at libraries, is sensory toolkits. So yeah, I really love that. And I'm seeing it more and more, which I always get so excited when I see it. But for anyone who's not familiar with that, it could have big earplugs. So for children who get overwhelmed by that input, that auditory input, it could have fidget spinners, communication booklets, all those types of tools and visuals. And the parent gets it when they go into that area. I think that it's something so small. And I just think that small little thing could make a huge difference for not only everyone in the community, but also the child with autism is going to have a much more positive experience, the parents, everyone. So I think like that is more of a tangible thing that more people could implement in the communities. Yeah.
I absolutely love and want to emphasize, going back to your first point that you said about this idea of within a context. So we are human beings and we make judgments all the time, whether it's subconscious or consciously. And first impressions really do stick with us, but it's important to think about the context of the situation. And especially with children, it's so easy to attribute different behaviors to a bad kid or someone who isn't disciplined. And I love that you bring that up for an awareness piece, that's not something that we've really hit on a whole lot, but there are a lot of behaviors associated with autism. And like you said, taking a step back and considering, well, could it be a sensory overload? Could it be a new environment and a new schedule that they're not familiar with? So that's our whole goal with Spectrum Sundays, is to help with that. So I'm so glad that you brought up that point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, Shannon, thank you so much for being with us today. can you share your Instagram handle or your podcast or blog information for anyone watching?
Yeah, so thanks again for having me on. My blog, I have a Facebook page, an Instagram blog, and a podcast, all under the name SLP Corner. So yeah, you can check that out.
Absolutely. And I hope that everyone watching goes and checks it out. And also, if you haven't had a chance to watch Shannon's original interview with us, please loop back to a few weeks ago when we interviewed her on Spectrum Sundays. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we will see you next Sunday at 1 o'clock. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon.